And the U.S. has announced new sanctions on Venezuela today as the conflict over the country's legitimate president continues. Welcome to Citrus TV News.
And while one winter storm just came to the end, it looks like there's more snow on the way. Citrus TV weather anchor Tony Bianco has the details on the winter storm advisory in Syracuse.
And our very own Drew Carter and 2 other Newhouse students are on the radio route covering all the action surrounding preparations for the Super Bowl. Stay tuned to hear all about their first day in Atlanta. And
Citrus TV News live at 6, your campus news leader.
New at 6, the university announced today that it's now accepting students from the city of Syracuse for the university's summer college program. Good evening, I'm Sabrina Maggiore.
And I'm David Edelstein. SU officials say they want to enhance connections with the Syracuse community, as well as allow Syracuse City students to take advantage of benefits and resources of the university. Vice Chancellor Mike Henney says this program will leave a positive impact on the city students.
Pathway where we are going to fund students out of the city of Syracuse School District to participate in SU Summer College beginning this summer.
New details from the Hill. With automated technology like drones and self-driving cars on the rise, Syracuse University will begin teaching about issues related to all this new technology.
The new SU initiative will bring discussions to classrooms across the university, including school-specific discussions relating to autonomous systems. According to SU News, funding for the effort will come from donations as well as investments from the Office of Academic Affairs.
And we have new details now about how students are reacting to last night's annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration featuring the Daily Show host Trevor Naoh in the Carrier Dome. Citrus TV reporter Sara Rizzo is live outside of the Dome to tell us more about the event. Sarah?
Thousands of people packed the Carrier Dome last night to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. I spoke to some students after the event who told me they were inspired by Noah's words.
His actions, his energy, his passion inspired people across the world to stand up for justice, equality, and peace.
Syracuse University's Martin Luther King Jr. celebration is the largest on-campus event celebrating Dr. King's life in the United States. There were many speakers, performing acts, and the presentation of the Unsung Hero Awards leading up to the discussion with Trevor Naoh. Naoh talked about his novel, his childhood, and how he finds humor in everyday life. Many students were inspired by Noah's words.
I think the most inspiring part about his whole thing was about how you are like the writer of your own story. You tell your own story. The way you react is up to you. He made a big point to say that you're always in control.
Another student was moved by how powerful Noah's story is.
His optimism is really inspiring because I think it's really easy to get dragged down by the current events today. And it's really inspiring to see someone who's come from such a rough history be so optimistic and so positive.
Discussions about Dr. King and Black history will continue during Black History Month in February. The month starts with an opening reception on February 1st. Reporting live from the Carrier Dome, I'm Sara Rizzo, Citrus TV News.
And the latest details on how Syracuse University is asking students to change the way they log into their SYR email accounts. Citrus TV reporter Ricky Sayer is live in studio to talk about why the university believes the change will solve a frequent annoyance. So Ricky, what exactly is changing?
So right now you can log into your SYR email by just entering in a password. Under the new system, once you put in that password, you'll be sent a code to your phone. That is what is going to let you actually access your emails. It's called two-factor authentication, and the university hopes it will go a long way towards strengthening a weak spot in its defenses against hackers. In particular, phishing attacks have become a big problem for ITS recently. Those are those mass emails from what looks like a student account that asks recipients to follow a link and provide things like your NetID and password. Christopher Finkel, communications manager for ITS, told us they hope this change will go a long way towards ending those attacks.
Password or reusing your passwords, it makes it very difficult for somebody who's trying to steal your passwords or may have already done so, your university password anyway, for them to use it because they don't have your phone. They don't have the authentication app. They're not going to get the code.
Students have a little less than a month to opt in before the system will start affecting accounts automatically. Finkel also assures us that the change will not require students to create a new password. For Citrus TV, I'm Ricky Sayer.
You know, David, I'm not sure why I'm still surprised at it, but another freezing day at Syracuse University.
I do have to say, though, the sun was out and it felt pretty warm. For your first weather, going to weather anchor Tony Bianca.
Thanks, guys. Taking a look at the temperatures outside right now, it's about 18 degrees outside. Pretty nice despite the cold, though. Low winds. It feels like 9 degrees, though, so like I said, pretty cold. But tomorrow we have a winter advisory in effect, and that's going to be in effect from 1 a.m. tomorrow until 1 a.m. on Wednesday. And if you could see that winter advisory, I have a slide on that winter advisory. So you can see that the road conditions are going to be very dangerous tomorrow. So if you're driving down to BC to see the Orange take on the Eagles, it's going to be pretty icy and pretty dangerous. And if we move into tomorrow, you can see that it's going to be very cold out, and it's going to start picking up snow around 1 a.m. tonight. So David and Sabrina, back to you.
Thanks, Tony. Now the latest in continuing developments from the Catholic Diocese in Buffalo. The diocese has offered more than $8 million to nearly 4 dozen people sexually abused by priests. At least 47 victims have received offers ranging from $10,000 to $650,000. Diocese officials declined to comment on the number of offers that have been made or the overall dollar amount. Some victims have already been paid, while others are still deciding whether or not they'll accept the money and give up their rights to sue the diocese. And on a lighter note, furry friends that need homes are getting a little more comfortable. Governor Cuomo announced a $4.5 million grant through state shelters and humane societies. The money will go towards improving health care and adoption services at 13 shelters across the state. The shelters take care of more than 150,000 animals each year, and this is the second state donation towards the fund. And if you haven't gotten your flu shot yet, you may want to reconsider. Central New York is being hit by the flu harder than any other part of the state. State health officials say there have been 480 confirmed cases in Onondaga County so far this season. But that number might actually be much higher because most people who get the flu don't actually go to the doctor or get tested. The government is recommending that everyone 6 months or older gets a flu shot.
Super Bowl Sunday is just days away, and we have new details on how SU students found a better way to experience all of the preparations. What better way than in person? 3 Newhouse students are on Radio Row for this year's Media Week. The trip was organized by Jonah Karp, one of Citrus TV's very own. He was inspired after taking Professor Dennis Denninger's Super Bowl broadcasting class. Then he arranged for the trip, bringing along Newhouse seniors Jackson and Jello, and today's typical anchor, who I'm filling in for on today's show, Drew Carter. Drew is live with us from Atlanta. Drew, I really like this seat. I might stay in it for a little while. Very appreciative of this opportunity here today. Tell me what it's like to have your opportunity there.
Guys, it's really been surreal so far. We got here yesterday. Big time shout out to Jonah Karp and Dennis Denninger for setting this all up, allowing a chance for Jackson and myself to come down and experience. We landed it yesterday here in Atlanta, and ever since it's just been amazing. The city is sprawling and big. The host committee has been welcoming and warm. There was actually a time yesterday we were trying to look around, find out where to park for media credentials. We rolled down the window, asked someone, hey, where do we go? About 17 hands pointed us in the right direction. Everyone with smiles. Everyone has been so warm and open and welcoming to this town. It's been an amazing experience just a couple days in.
It sounds like it's a very good experience. How about for you as the media? How has the first day of media interviews gone?
So first day of interviews, I mean, I was pretty much starstruck. We walked in last night, we basically stopped in our tracks and we were looking around like we were kids in a candy store. And then today, me personally, guys, I'm a media nerd. I've been watching sports TV for about 20 years now. So when we interview a guy like Ed Werder, we set up an interview with a guy like Jim Trotter, someone like Diana Rossini. That's what really gets me going. And then we might have Kevin Harlan later in the week. We've got so many people who could be joining our show. It's really, really cool. It's been an amazing experience, like I said. Not only the city, but the people as well.
Drew, thanks so much and best of luck the rest of the week.
And coming up next, the government's up and running again, but not without any effect. Stay tuned to find out how the shutdown affected the economy.
And Nancy Pelosi re-invited Trump to deliver the State of the Union address at the House, and a tentative date has been set. Find out when it could be and whether Trump has accepted the invitation.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Got a quarter?
What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city.
Whoa!
Gear up, guys.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
If you see news happening on campus, in Syracuse, or across the nation, call the CitrusTV Newsroom, 315-443-1177, or tweet at CitrusTV News, your campus news leader.
According to a nonpartisan report, the government shutdown cost the economy $11 billion. Most of the damage to the economy will be reversed, though, as federal workers return to their jobs, but an estimated $3 billion in economic activity is permanently lost.
Among those experiencing the largest consequences are federal workers who missed paychecks and private sector entities that lost business during the shutdown. The report also revealed that the government is expected to reach $100 trillion in debt by 2022. That's 2 years earlier than previously anticipated.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has re-invited President Trump to deliver the State of the Union address at the House. This comes after a back and forth between Trump and Pelosi.
Pelosi had previously rescinded the invitation to the president during the government shutdown, citing security concerns. No word yet on whether President Trump has accepted the invite, but the tentative date of the address is set for February 5th.
The United Nations team investigating the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi has arrived in Turkey. Today is the start of its week-long investigation in the country, led by UN execution specialists.
The UN team says it hopes to search inside Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul. That's the place where Khashoggi was allegedly killed. The team is looking to verify Turkish officials' claims that the murder was ordered by the Saudi crown prince. And the latest in the struggle for control of Venezuela. The U.S. is imposing sanctions on the state-owned oil firm PDVSA.
PDVSA is the country's largest revenue source as one of the top 4 crude oil suppliers of the United States. Here to break down the conflict is CitrusTV reporter Gabrielle Caracciolo. Gabrielle?
Well, guys, the stakes of the conflict are continuously increasing as each day passes without a universally recognized leader of the country. Today's sanctions are just the latest in a string of protests and political maneuvers.
On January 10th, Nicolas Maduro was sworn in for a second term as president of Venezuela after winning what many countries have called an illegitimate election. Then, last week, head of the opposition-led National Assembly, Juan Guaido, proclaimed himself president amid widespread anti-government protests.
The time to side with the Constitution is here. The time has come to respect the people of Venezuela.
President Trump and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo are backing Guaido and urging other nations to recognize him as the president of Venezuela. But Maduro, who is backed by Russia and China, is saying he believes the actions of Guaido are actually a coup planned by the U.S. government.
It's an expression of an empire in the face of decline. Pompeo is expressing an empire that is now shouting and threatening.
And despite the struggle for control, Guaido is not backing down. He wrote the Bank of England asking them not to give Maduro $1.2 billion worth of gold kept in the bank's vaults, a request with which the bank has thus far complied. The self-proclaimed president has also called for the people of Venezuela to take to the streets on Wednesday in peaceful protests of Maduro's control. And although Guaido is asking the Venezuelan people to protest peacefully, the violence is escalating, and that prompted the Pope Francis even to speak out, saying he won't take sides, but he is calling for a just and peaceful solution.
And live at 6, we have Citrus TV weather anchor Tony Bianco to tell us all of the weather stories happening in and around the nation.
Extremely cold weather is headed for the U.S. this week. More than 200 million people will be affected by the below freezing temperatures. That's more than 75% of the U.S. population. Between Tuesday and Thursday, temperatures could dip to 40 degrees below zero in the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region. Blizzard conditions in many states throughout the U.S. will make travel dangerous, and exceptionally cold temperatures will likely shatter records across the U.S. And disaster in the Caribbean. 3 people are dead and more than 170 are injured after a rare tornado hit Havana, Cuba last night. The Cuban president visited emergency crews around the city and described the damage on Twitter as severe. Officials say winds higher than 60 miles per hour hit the city. The tornado damaged power poles, uprooted trees, and cut power to many areas of the island. The government is still trying to assess the damage. And across the world, the death toll from a Brazilian dam collapse is rising to more than 60 people as search and rescue efforts continue. More than 290 people are still missing. Officials told more than 3,000 people they had to evacuate because of another nearby dam. Authorities lifted the order, later determining the dam would not burst. The extent of the damage from the collapse is still not known. And coming up, I'll tell you how much snow is expected to hit Syracuse this week. Citrus TV News will be right back.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
From the Citrus TV Weather Center, this is SU's most accurate weather forecast.
And welcome back to Citrus TV News Live at 6. Taking a look at the current temperatures across central New York, you can see that it's pretty similar across the board. Those high teens, mid-20s, your low up in Rome and Fulton at 16. And this day in history, January 28th, you can see record temperatures. You have a high in January, on January 28th, the high record temperature was 64 degrees, and that was in 1916. And the lowest recorded temperature on January 28th, negative 18 degrees in 2005. Now, when you're waking up tomorrow morning, be thankful that it's not 2005, because You can see here that it's going to be 27 degrees tomorrow when you wake up, and it's not going to be snowing until later in the day. And if you look at our 5-day forecast, if you look at my 5-day forecast, you'll be pretty happy to know that that snow is pretty much only sticking around on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the snow is going to be gone. It's going to be very cold though, 8 degrees on Wednesday. But on Groundhog's Day on Saturday, hopefully I'm finding out that spring is coming very soon. Zach, what do you got for us in sports?
Thanks, Tony. Well, coming up in sports, both SU basketball teams hit the road this past weekend, and only one flew home with a W. Plus, an NBA megastar is seeking a trade, and he could end up in Knicks blue and orange. That and more when we return.
And now, your Citrus TV Sports Report.
Welcome to sports. I'm Zach Lang. The last time Syracuse men's basketball went on the road, they beat the #1 team in the land, the Duke Blue Devils. On Saturday, the Orange started a 3-game road trip, and the results quite different this time. So let's take you down to Blacksburg back on Saturday when Syracuse was taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies. You see O'Shea Brissett there warming up. He played a somewhat big part in this, but it didn't matter because Virginia Tech rolled over SU night in and night out. In the beginning of the game, 7 straight threes were hit by Syracuse and Virginia Tech players. It was an all-out shootout from the arc, mainly from this guy right here, Justin Robinson. He was the man of the hour. He broke 2 records for Virginia Tech. The first one, the most three-pointers in a single game in program history with 9. And right there you see he broke the record for most assists by a Hokie ever. Jim Boeheim says that he was really hard to guard after the game.
And defensively, we just did a very poor job of finding Robinson. They did a good job of finding him, and we just did a very poor job finding him where he is. And once a guy makes 2 or 3, you can't get off him, and we did. We did a good job of finding him, but we just did a very poor job defensively.
Boeheim and company play next on Wednesday at Boston College. And a rocky last 2 games for the women's team carried into the Orange's road test at Duke, at least for the first half. After a 4-point second quarter, yes, you heard that right, 4 points in the second quarter, the Orange tallied 31 points in the third, propelling them to a 64-55 win over the Blue Devils. Kiara Lewis set a career high in points for the second straight game, leading the Orange with 20 points. Syracuse hosts Virginia on Thursday inside the Carrier Dome. And Syracuse men's soccer now has 3 new players to help fill the void left by a large graduating senior class. 18-year-old midfielder Anthony Arias joins the Orange as an international student from Costa Rica. Transfers Matt Orr and Niall Higgins round out the new faces, replacing prominent players like Kamal Miller and sophomore Tajon Buchanan, who was drafted into Major League Soccer. The Orange still do not have a replacement for senior goalkeeper Hendrik Hilbert. And in the NBA, fans woke up to a bombshell report this morning as the trade deadline approaches. First reported by ESPN, New Orleans Pelicans All-Star Anthony Davis has formally requested a trade and will not sign a Supermax extension this offseason, in which Davis would have earned $240 million over 5 years. As trade speculations swirl, 3 main teams appear to be involved in trade talks with the Pelicans. The Los Angeles Lakers appear to be the front runner to get Davis, which would pair him alongside LeBron James. James has been very vocal about wanting to play with Davis, who was the #1 overall pick in 2012. Now, another team in the mix is the New York Knicks, who play tonight in Charlotte. The Knicks have lost 17 of their last 18 games and are set to contend for the #1 overall pick in the upcoming 2019 NBA draft. If the Knicks are awarded the #1 selection, the draft pick could be an essential part of a package to bring Anthony Davis to the Big Apple. Tip-off tonight in Charlotte is set for 7 p.m. And a third team heavily interested in acquiring Davis is the Boston Celtics, who would not be able to trade for the big man until after the season ends. Like the Lakers, the Celtics have a large pool of assets and young players to put together a deal suitable for New Orleans. As for tonight's game, Boston and Brooklyn hold the 5th and 6th spots in the Eastern Conference standings. Tip-off at TD Garden is set for 7:30 and can be watched on the YES Network.
Zach, so some pretty big news for the NBA. Anthony Davis, what would it take for him to be wearing orange and blue and playing Madison Square Garden?
Well, you see, Anthony Davis, he's a top 5 talent in the NBA, easily one of the best stars that this league has right now. So it would take a mega package to get this guy to play for the Knicks, even for any of those other teams like Los Angeles and for Boston. But for the Knicks, it could cost them Kristaps Porzingis, who is set to be a restricted free agent at the end of this season. And it could also cost them, like I mentioned, that #1 overall pick, assuming the Knicks get it. But right now, with just 10 wins on the season, it could very well happen.
All I could say is for the contract you mentioned that he would have gotten, I would definitely take the money.
I would definitely would too.
Thank you very much, Zach. And coming up, candy hearts are not the only sweet treat to share with your loved one. Find out what new treat Krispy Kreme is introducing this Valentine's Day.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
You can give your sweetheart a sweet message on a sweet item. Krispy Kreme Donuts is unveiling new conversation donuts. The company is selling its products with phrases written on them just in time for Valentine's Day.
Among the messages, be mine, all the feels, and DM me. These edible heart-shaped treats feature 4 flavors inside: cake batter, chocolate cream, raspberry filled, and strawberries and cream. The donuts make their debut on Wednesday and are available up to Valentine's Day. All right, guys, what do you think about this? I'm really excited.
I want one. I don't eat donuts often. I want one. I want it personalized, everything.
Yeah, I definitely like that one that says DM me, but you don't actually have to DM me. You can just slide one of those donuts into my mailbox.
Please don't DM me. Just give me the donut.
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking for.
Please.
Show me the love. I'll give you my address. Put it in my mailbox. I'll gladly take it.
I'll give you a donut.
Donuts?
Donut.
Sounds good to me.
There you go.
I could use a few
I'll
extra
get
calories.
you a donut. All right, thank you so much. And that's about it for us for here on Citrus TV News. I'm Sabrina Maggiore.
And I'm David Edelstein. Check us out at citrustv.com for more information and on Twitter at CitrusTV News.
Have a great day.
Syracuse.